Ooh, speaker. Sound. All right, everybody. Good to see you. Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
Thanks, Ed, for the great article on the Ed's my kind of biblical archaeology partner. It's always sending me really cool new articles on things. And here we are, getting close to Lent. We are into the 4th chapter of Genesis, and some pretty heavy duty stuff. Really good stuff too. And so a couple little housekeeping things. If I have no idea, what Jesus always said, if the one who has ears to hear, let them hear. I always feel like what he meant was if the shoe fits, wear it. And I mean that gracefully because it doesn't fit all the time. But we're still looking for another cook on hearty meal. What that means is you're not in charge of all the hearty meals. Somebody thought that's what it meant, but you're just in charge of one meal a month. And we got tons of volunteers, we got tons of help, but we're in need of another there. So that's something to put out there in the world. We also need some more volunteers for help with Fat Tuesday. Debbie Marsh is heading it up this year, and she doesn't have any help at this point. So we'll need to get some of those if we're going to have that event this, and I don't know, 2-3 weeks, whenever it is. What, maybe 3 weeks away yet? Yeah. So let's see, those couple of little guilt trips to offer you this. No. But no, this is great. Everything's going well. I don't think there's any other announcements as such. Oh, yes, one more. Bruce Smith, who we all remember and miss very much. I know I miss his challenges in Bible study. And he passed away back in September. And we're going to do a little very informal, celebration of his life after hearty meal 2 weeks from this Wednesday. So it's 2 weeks away yet. He always came to hearty meal and he had his table of guys that were really close to him. But I know some of you were close to him and knew him through this Bible study and then through Sunday morning. We're just going to gather at the font in the sanctuary, sing a song, share some words about him, hear some scripture. This is very informal, no bulletin, no reception afterwards. And that's per his request. And so that's just a heads up for you on that. All right. With that, if there's not anything else. Yes, Jerry. Oh, Scout Sunday. Scout Sunday, this Sunday, we got our Scout breakfast in between the services, and Jerry will be reading, and JJ, if you didn't know, JJ Story is our Scoutmaster of our troop. So, which is really cool to have a member of our church be that involved, and it's just really helped make our troop, make that connection of our troop, because it is part of our ministry here. So, So thanks, Jerry, for mentioning that. No adult class this Sunday because of that. There will be kids Sunday school, though, and high school and all of that. Unfortunately, Ron's class last Sunday, somehow the mute button got pressed. And so the recording has no sound, because I've been like, as soon as I can after Sunday, like listening, reading it, and I'm very impressed with this congregation's. You're representing well with your questions and stuff. And I know people are really loving it. So that was a bummer last week, but anyway, all right. With that, we have to end kind of right on time today. So let's get underway. I will pray and we will read. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, thank you for this beautiful day, some sun today and longer days. And thank you for your word that is the true light that shines in the darkness. And help us as we ponder these great stories and tragic stories, and yet so enlightening stories from Genesis, that it truly help us understand the gospel even more. And so we just ask that this time be helpful and fruitful, and your spirit be with us in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Sharing up the screen. And folks at home, just remember that if you are hearing me okay, but you're having trouble hearing someone else, if you know where your little volume setting is on your computer or your iPad, you can turn it up louder when somebody at the tables is talking, and that might help. And then you can turn it back down. The only other option is to go back to our old system, to get another owl, because we can daisy chain them. We can daisy chain them together, and that might help. But the other option is to go back where we have to pass a microphone for anybody at home to hear you. So, and that's kind of a inconvenience. So for folks in-house, use your outdoor voice as best you can, because I don't want folks at home to miss. I can try and paraphrase, but I don't want them to miss, what you have to say. All right. So with that, here we are. Let's get over here to Cain and Able. You know where we were at. We are looking at the consequences of Adam and Eve's rise or their presumptuous rise to try and take the place of God. And their fall, certainly, we can use that word. We wrestled, I think we've wrestled beautifully with, did God cause all this? Or did he just make the potential for all this to happen? Or, did human beings really have the choice that we think about? These are things that we'll continue to wrestle with and dialogue with. And even as we go now into Cain and Able. So we had the consequences. They've been they're out of the garden. They're blocked from going into that garden. And now we're at Cain and Abel. Here we go. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. I'm sure there was some, good lentils and oatmeal, maybe some kale. Yeah, kale I get excited about kale. Ross, you went right to that's good. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. So the firstborn of the flock and their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. So Cain was very angry. Let's stop there. Joyce, you keep asking that question. Why? And yeah, we all want to know. It's the perfect question. I think clearly this narrative, this text almost, that just leaps off the page. All right. Okay. So why do you think? Is there any clue? The text doesn't say why, does it? It doesn't say, and God had no regard for Cain, because, but there are two things in there that a lot of people point to, and Barb's going to help us out. Okay, so big difference, Barb would say. Cain brought some of his harvest. He kept the kale back. Or maybe he included it. That's why. Yeah. Well, and that, it'd have been all right if he'd have cooked them and roasted them real good with some olive oil. Yeah. So Abel brought some, but then Barb also took our attention to one detail that could be really important in answering Joyce's question, why? First fruits, the firstborn. Doesn't say first fruits, but the firstborn. So some people are going to say, aha, the reason is that he brought the best, the first, and we don't hear anything about whether Cain's was the first or it just some, but we don't hear about that. Yes, Joyce. Yes, okay. So, in case you didn't hear at home, Joyce mentioned, could it be their attitude? And God knew their heart. And so maybe God knew something that we don't. Kathy?
Underlying hint at his motivation for the gift.
Okay. So when we see that Cain gets so angry, I don't know why I always get these two guys mixed up in my head, but anyway, which one killed who? But anyway, so the fact that Cain gets so angry when his gift is overlooked or not regarded, that might be a clue that his heart wasn't in the right place initially. Supporting Joyce's, why am I calling you Joyce? Joyce is over there. Cain, I'm done. All these names. I am so sorry. Please help me.
Because it's he had
How did they know what they were supposed to, what God wanted as far as bringing an offering in the first place? This just comes out of nowhere. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So the answer might be to Kim's question. It's intuitive. They knew that they were supposed to give to the Lord. It's just, like Jeremiah says, there'll be a time when God will write the law on their heart, that there was this sense, though, that going back to the beginning, that they knew that this was a part of life and this is what you do. Yeah, that's a good question.
maybe Adam and Eve.
Maybe Adam and Eve said we blew it, so don't do it. Gloria, that's good. That's good. So yeah, they may have got some instruction from Adam and Eve. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Certainly, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about that whole concept of the firstborn. We got to talk about that. Yeah.
There's other instances in Genesis where the younger son gets favored.
Absolutely. We got all over the place. That, the classic one is Jacob and Esau. Esau is the firstborn, and Jacob actually means usurper. Now, just like with that instance, and this one, and although the text of Genesis says that God knew or I think it's in Genesis, or maybe it's later reflection in the Old Testament. God knew Jacob's heart and he knew Esau's, and that's why he chose Jacob. So it gives an explanation almost as to why. Because as human beings, we want God to be just, right? We want him to, and it's, when we read this is not right. Just for no reason to shun. Would you do that to your children? If you did, and you were surprised that one grew up resentful because you favored the other, should you be surprised that they feel, I mean, we have to be careful about these things as parents, don't we? I've got 2 kids. I didn't keep track about how much I spent for Christmas for one and the other, like to the detail, but I kind of kept it at, tried to keep it even because I know we're sinful. We're human beings. And I've been very cautious. Like when I build one up, I got to be, and, I don't want one growing up. Oh, that's the superstar. Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's just human nature that we get jealous like that. And maybe this story is talking about that. So we got to be careful, but God commits the cardinal sin of being a parent. Don't favor one of your kids, but God does it over and over. He does. What's that, Karen? He didn't do a very good job. You think God's... Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Get better.
Yeah. And we search for an answer. Yeah. Joyce? Yeah, no, Cain was very angry. Verse 5. Yeah, right here.
If you do well, you're not being affected. And if you do not do well, then there's a chance of death. He must have known that, and he didn't do it.
It could be, but I take that. Well, let's read the second part and let's get that part of the conversation. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. Hebrew is so beautiful, like her anger, it literally means nostrils, like flare, I mean, that's the word, it's so his face fell, what that looks like, so his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted?" We're going to come back to this word. "And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it."
You think?
Good question, Doug. It kind of feels like it. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. Yeah. I think it could be. And you just made me think of another story in the New Testament that Jesus tells. What do you think? Can you guess which one I'm thinking of? Certain brother got really mad. The prodigal son. What does the dad say to the older son? "Why are you upset? Everything I have is yours." What are you getting? Why are you? But so I had never made that connection to this, but it's very similar, I think. All right. So we got a bunch of questions lingering that we haven't answered. I'm hoping you'll forget about them and we can move on. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, Mary, sure, please. Cain's attitude of unbelief that displeased God. Okay. It's got a several verses that connect with that. Now you've entered a whole nother. We've got attitude, his attitude, and now we've got a study Bible, which I think is really helpful. Which study Bible is it? I don't know. That it was his unbelief. Which one is it? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Not so his unbelief. That was the problem. Yeah. I guess his lack of faith in God's graciousness, his love. Good question. His providence that he was going to, that he would be accepted just because this time God didn't look on, so this is another possibility. Yeah. Oh, you don't like that one. We're not told. We absolutely are not told. The only thing I think we can draw from this text is this mention of the firstborn, that Abel gave the firstborn. And so let's real quick talk about that. So let's see, what is the, let me stop the share and go to share screen again and go here and go up here and go to there. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Did it come back? Yeah. Okay. So let me go here and go back. Primogeniture. Is that the way you say that? Breniture. Primogeniture. The firstborn in the ancient Near East had certain privileges and responsibilities collectively known under this label. So Cain is the firstborn. And why does he get angry? Because God rejects his offering. And one way to go with this text then is where Joyce is kind of wanting to go. So I think I'll talk her out of it. No, I'm just kidding. And most of us, good luck. I love it. I know. What was I thinking? Oh, that's so fun. But we're not, I'm picking on, but we are all that way. That's what we want to know why. So we're all together in this. And one way you could pick out is that, well, we hear this mention of the firstborn, but that also could just be a reference that that's what you do. And even though we're looking back in Genesis, and like Kim, your question, how would they know? See, this is where we have to start going. This story is not about exactly how everything came about. Because pretty soon we're going to see there's some people around that we didn't even hear about. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? So maybe that's not what the story is about. And what we hear is an assumed understanding of the way things are. And you could even say the law of first fruits. And then we've got this law of the firstborn, which is in every Mediterranean culture, including England. That's right. And it's influenced the world, really. Even today in large families, the oldest kind of, maybe they don't inherit more, half the thing, but they're kind of like supposed to be, there's some pressure on the firstborn, right? They're supposed to set the example, and they're supposed to kind of, but we know that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it does something, but anyway, so you've got this firstborn. So one way to go, which I think is very legitimate, is to say there's something about Cain's offering that was different than Abel's. And it could be that his heart wasn't in it. He was just, here, God, great, or maybe he held back the good stuff and gave God, or that Abel's, just really, it was his first, it was the best, it was the first. And so he did what he was supposed to do. And then his heart was in the right place. And, those are all possibilities, all of which we are coloring, except for the firstborn thing. Although it doesn't say that Cain didn't give the first fruits. It just said some, just like Abel gave some. But, I don't know if it matters, like whether it's the beginning of the field or the end of the field. I don't know. So that could be. And I can tell you that you are in league with all kinds of Christian theologians and writers in this. I'm just going to offer you one other option. Yes. Yes, from some of the firstborn, just some of the firstborn. So he gave fat portions. It also could be that God really loves, like we do, like fat things. I'm sorry. I smelled the Burger King Whopper, cooking, and I'm like, maybe God's like that. I don't know. Sorry. Fun to have some fun. Okay. But now this is another option. Especially knowing the firstborn rights. And especially knowing, as Ross mentioned earlier, that this is a theme in Scripture of the Old Testament. The firstborn not being selected. Joseph was not the firstborn. Right. Right, the youngest first, yes. So now with that, I know we have to assume that, but with that, why do you think Cain was angry now? He thought he was entitled to it. I am the firstborn, and you are not taking my offering, and you're not regarding it, and you're regarding my younger brother. That's not right. What is Cain feeling? It's a little bit maybe like Mary's commentary. I don't know if it's unbelief, but it certainly is presumption of righteousness. I deserve. I'm entitled. Now, with that, don't you want to hear some Luther? You're just dying to hear, just dying. I don't think so, actually. Let's see. Okay, where do I want to go? Let's go. Let's keep going. I think I put some of this in. Yeah, we got to go further. I thought I put some of this in I'll just do PowerPoint. I think I put some great quotes in PowerPoint here. So let me share, go back to PowerPoint. Wait, here. Yeah. All right. So, and I've got to minimize that. I think it will work. There we go. So, moreover, there follows from these words the very clear and very valid conclusion that Abel, rather than his work, was righteous, and that the work pleased because of the person, not the person because of the work. That's kind of where you guys were getting at. There must have been something underneath his offering that made a big difference. It was the person, not that his offering was better than Abel's. Or that his offering was better than Cain's, I should say. Yeah, okay, but let's keep going now. The latter is what our adversaries maintain when they teach that a person is justified through his works and not by faith alone. Now we're getting to the faith thing. So did the offering of Abel come out of his faith? I trust God, I love God, here you go. Or was Cain like, well, I got to do it because I want to be you know,
My brother's on.
I better get going too, and I better check that box. Let's just keep, Luther's just entering the dialogue with all of us. I don't know that he knows any, now, what does did you know the New Testament? The New Testament tells you an answer to your question? What does the book of Hebrews say? I mean, because we can say whatever we want, but now, the Hebrews 4:11, by faith, Abel offered a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God bearing witness concerning his gifts. Cain also, okay, so this is the quote from Hebrews, and then Luther says, Cain also brings an offering, and indeed first, but when he brings his offering, he is puffed up by the glory which was his birth. Here you go, God. Hear him up. All right. So, and he hopes that the sacrifice will please God because it is brought by the firstborn. Thus he comes without faith, without any confession of sin, without any supplication for grace, without trust in God's mercy. You think Luther's pouring some into? We all do this. We want to understand. Well, this could be it. Without any prayer for the forgiveness of his sins. We're going to come back to that. Believe it. We got to go to that word that you read, accepted. If you do well, you will be accepted. Oh, guess what? That word also means forgiveness. I'm not saying accepted isn't the right English translation here, but in Psalm 32, it's translated as forgiveness. Oh boy, we're going now. All right. He comes in hope that he will please God by nothing else than that he is the firstborn. All the work righteousness do the same thing even now. Okay, so you can see how Luther's getting but this is a lens. I mean, and is it the right lens? I guess everybody has to wrestle with it. But Luther felt like in his day, the works righteousness were coming, well, because they had done this, or because after all, I'm in the in group. So, and rather the only way we approach God is faith, trust in God's mercy. That's the only leg we can stand on. We don't get to stand on, well, I grew up Lutheran all my life and my family goes back, or we don't get to, we can't, none of that. It doesn't work, Ethel May. I'm sorry. I know. Kathy, jump in.
Verse 7 didn't say, if you do what is right.
Yes. Right. So now we have to unpack that. Yeah, we have to go back to that. So no, absolutely. Yeah.
Did Luther say anything about why God hates us?
Yes, he would go on to say Abel brought his in faith.
There's nothing
in trust. It doesn't exactly say that, does it? Yeah. He's looking at it through a lens. And I like his lens. He's looking at it through what biblical lens is he looking at? Well, he's looking at it through Hebrews 11:4. And he's also looking at it through Romans 3. No person will be justified by their works. Works of the law. Doing the first. Was it because he brought the firstborn and Cain brought? No, that's not it. Because then he's justified by the fact he did it right. He's accepted because he did it right. This is Luther's lens for sure, Ross. Yeah. Gloria, sorry. Or no. Yeah.
You are right. Absolutely this. Please forgive me this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
It seems like.
It does seem like that. And so let's go to that. Let's go to that word, and let's go to what Kathy was saying. If you do what is right, because Luther's talking about faith and not doing stuff. So let's go to that. Let's definitely look at that. We'll finish this quote. They are concerned only with their own work, and so they hope that they will please God because of it. And if they didn't do well enough, then they can go to purgatory and do better and take care of anything they missed. They do not trust in God's mercy, and they do not hope that God will pardon their sins because of Christ. I think Luther's probably going a little too far there. But in the sense that I don't think it's all or nothing. All of us tend to go to the work side of things sometimes, so I get it. So that's where I'm like, I get a little nervous with it. But of course, this was 500 years ago, and everybody was throwing grenades at each other. And we need to try not to do that. And I don't want to do that. But I do want to make a stand for faith. So anyway, and they do not hope that God will pardon their sins because of Christ. I guess what some people would say is, yeah, I believe my pardon is because of Christ, but also my works get in there somewhere. Yeah. Cain too was such a person, for he could not have displeased God if he had no faith.
Explain that. I don't know.
Wait, I'm sorry. That should say faith. Cain too was such a person, for he could not have displeased God if he had faith. That's a typo. Yeah, it's a typo. It's not a quote from. I actually, when I was typing it in, it didn't finish, so I had to do that manually. And now that I read that, I know that's wrong. Yeah. So yeah, because it wouldn't make sense with what Luther's saying. It wouldn't have made sense, but it makes sense if we get rid of the no. And that, I truly take my word for it. The no is not in there. That was my mistake. Typing this in early in the morning. Cain too was such a person, for he could not have displeased God if he had faith. If he had faith, his offering of grain would have been lovely. So again, this goes with Mary's, Bible helps. I think it was faith. It wasn't just his attitude that his heart was in the right, but he trusted, he believed. That's what made the difference versus something about his that was a better work than Abel's, this type of thing. So this probably is enough. Let's go back to the text, please, Mary. Okay, yeah. So it went, and that's where it goes to the faith part. Yeah. Yeah, good. I want to check out folks at home. Are we doing a good at home? All right. Yeah, good. All right. Let's share screen and go back to the text here. And we'll say goodbye to Luther and go back to the Bible. Okay. So now let's zero in here. The Lord said, why are you angered? Why are your face fallen? If you do well, if you do well, will you not be accepted? So let's do the accepted word. Here's the root: to carry, to lift up, to bring or take away, raise high, exalt, to maintain. So that's why we translate as accepted. But interestingly enough, in some contexts, like I think I put Psalm 32 here. Yes, I did. Blessed is the one who is lifted up, forgiven. So here, the word, it's the same Hebrew word. It's translated as forgiven. This is what Luther goes like, that's accepted is fine. But I think the King James doesn't even get you that. I don't know if I forget what the King James says, but if you do well, will you not be accepted? So now let's go back to what does doing well mean? And see, this is, so every time I'm with you, Kathy, 100%. Okay. But this is the way I've been helped on this. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says something interesting. He says, what is the commandment of God? What does it mean It means to believe. So doing well, we think like a work or something, but actually doing well is like trust, believe. Yeah. If you trust and believe, you're going to be fine. So again, versus if you do the right thing and bring me the right kind of offering next time, you're going to be, but again, these are, you can go, Christianity kind of goes, and we've got lots of different things. And I'm pretty sure God intended this to happen. For us to wrestle. Absolutely. I don't know that you're confused. Confused, you don't know. We just have a bunch of different options. That's all. No, of course, Luther would say, you're a Lutheran pastor and you're saying there's another option? Oh my gosh. Because it's about faith, and Hebrews 4:11 says that. So again, that's the interpretation. I like that. But I also, with Kathy, go, yeah.
Submit to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is faith, right? It is doing well. Yes. To do well is to believe and to have faith. Yeah. And I think we can see that in some other passages. And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. This is a challenging statement too. How do human beings do with that? Not too good. What's the report card? F. Fail. Loser. It's like God says, if you have faith, you will do well, but sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. There's a sense here that also of the insidiousness. I think Genesis operates to tell us what it is to have a God and what it is to be human. And does not sin crouch at the door? Does not unbelief tempt us? Throw in the towel. Do what you want to do, You could say make a choice, but now I don't even know that Cain has a choice. That's the other thing that comes just crushing into this text now after the Adam and Eve do their original deed, which some of us have wondered if they had a choice either. And I'm with you on that. I wrestle with that. But now, after they've done what they've done and they've been kicked out of the garden, do they have a choice? A lot of Jewish and Christian theology and heritage would say, absolutely. That's the whole point, is human beings need to make the right choice. Even when it comes to being a Christian, what's the language? Have you made a personal decision? Yeah. So, and I get why they can look at that, because it seems like that's the whole thing. Luther comes around and says, I think now we're stuck. We can't make the choice unless God's word comes and makes and kills us and brings us to life. That's what we mean when we say we're in bondage to sin and cannot free ourselves. Or in 1 John, when we say, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. And so anyway, but this is like Christendom. You got probably, I don't know. I don't know if you've got Lutherans and Episcopalians, and then you got Anglicans, and then you got the rest of Christianity on this subject. Do we ever master sin? There you go. Thank you, Gloria. Do we ever master it? That's where that's the preaching point. Because we can't master it, but somebody did. Somebody did. Yeah. All right. Do you want to get on to the sad part? Psalm 32:1. Yep. 32:1. Blessed is the one, and just listen to the whole, thanks, Kim, for asking about that, because blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, is lifted away, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the person against whom the Lord counts no iniquity. Doesn't say blessed is the person who doesn't sin. Blessed is the one whose iniquity has not been counted against them, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. And it goes on. It's kind of a partly a lament song. Okay. And attitude, your faith. Yeah. Yeah, right. And I think that's when Luther talks about faith, I think that's what he's saying. Like, I totally need God to do it, that I am not capable of fixing the problem. Yeah. So often pastorally, by the way, I sit with people and I have had these same experiences with folks who are just like, I just can't fix it. I can't stop, or I can't do this, or I'm angry and I can't not be angry, and don't want to be angry. I can't. And I say, well, Romans 7 says something like that. The very thing I do, I don't want to do. The thing I don't want to do, I do. And oh, wretched man, and then it's Jesus. And so we pray after I listen and I relate and listen. And this is what you can do with people the same when you hear this, and then say, well, let's pray for the Holy Spirit to help you do what you cannot do because you can't, So it's interesting. All right. Cain spoke to Abel, his brother. Now, I think the Septuagint adds, let's go out to the field, versus, and when they were in the field. So the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, says he lured him out. The Hebrew doesn't quite say that. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. This is mentioned, in some other New Testament passages here. I love this one in Hebrews 12. And to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Sometimes, and you'll see why it says that, because it's what happens here. So, and killed him. And then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? And boy, is this. And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? You can just see how these stories are, although I just heard recently a new study that less than 50% of our country now claims connection to a house of worship. So now we've dropped below 50%, whereas it used to be 70% about 15 years ago. So that's a big drop. But even though that's happened, still these stories are part of Western civilization and culture. I mean, how many times am I my brother's keeper? What does that mean? In other words, I'm not involved. I don't have any responsibility, I don't know. So now what's happening? We go to the next step, Kathy. We go from, his unbelief to lying. Now he's going to lie. He could, right? Exactly. It's like Adam and Eve. Where are you? And Adam says, he makes up a thing, and then he starts pointing the finger. And what does Cain do? He says, I don't know where my brother is. So he lies. And of course, God, here's the law. Remember, we talked about scripture's law and gospel. What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. That is just a powerful where the God, innocent blood, that it cries out to God, that God notices, that God cares, that it creates God's wrath. When we get to Genesis 6 and the flood, do you know why God destroys the world? There's one word in Hebrew. It's a really important word. The world was full of, nope, although that's true. Nope, nope, violence. Violence. That's what it says in Genesis. The world was full of violence. Like in Judd, yeah. So, and you just see this. You see this. The world is full of violence. Right here, you see Cain, murdering Abel, and the innocent blood of Cain cries out. I'm sorry, of Abel cries out. See, I just can't get these guys right. And I love what Hebrews says, that Jesus's blood now cries out louder than, because we all are guilty. You see what that's saying? We are all guilty. We're with Abel. We, Cain, thank you. You know what I mean? Just we're with those guys. That one guy that killed the other guy. Lord help me. I know I'm a sinner, God, but please help me. So yes, no, that's so good. So his blood is our blood. His blood is on our hands because we're, and so Jesus's blood doesn't cry out condemnation, but forgiveness. Whoa, what a switch. Yes.
Well, if God hates the spilling of his blood, imagine what he felt when Jesus was crucified.
Right.
And
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Didn't feel anything. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. When you think about what is Chesed, God is Chesed, and God is righteous, but his Chesed, his mercy, loving kindness. So that goes along with feelings that God is great. Yeah, I've always marveled at that theoretical, wonderment. The Old Testament tells us he gets mad, nostrils flare, So yeah, you think about what God, it wasn't some kind of, people want to get rid of, I know we've talked about this a lot, but people want to get rid of the atoning sacrifice of Jesus on the basis of what kind of God needs that. God didn't need it. We needed it. And God didn't. And the reason they really don't like it is because we sometimes go a little further than the New Testament does and say, well, there was this cosmic debt that we owed to God and Jesus had to pay it, and so what kind of God, does that? But it's not that at all. It's God knew this was the only way, and God wouldn't even spare his own son. That's how much he loved us. And you think about how much agony that would be, that the whole thing got started with innocent blood and it's going to finish with innocent blood. So yeah. Whoa. Amazing. So what is this you've done? So now we get judgment. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood and from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. Isn't that a little similar to what Adam had to experience? Yeah, here comes the headache, right. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Now, Kathy, maybe Cain repents. And Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. I don't know if that's repentance.
He's repenting. He's getting beat up.
Yeah. He's not really sorry. Yeah, he's just like, hey, this is too much, God. Can cut me a break or my guilt. Ooh. Or my guilt is too great to bear. That is. Boy, what else do your translations say? Thanks for noticing that, Ethel May. I just hovered it over. It's like the Holy Spirit said, look at this. Okay, my guilt. Let's look at this Hebrew word. Sin, misdeed, guilt caused by sin or punishment. Interesting. Let's see. Let's see. I think I've got my Septuagint here.
Cain responded not with remorse.
What your footnotes? Now, so I got to take this opportunity. I like that footnote. Now, a lot of you have study Bibles. Love them and hate them. Remember, they are not the Bible. They are not inspired by the Holy Spirit, etc. They are helpful, but never forget they are coming from a certain perspective. And I'm not criticizing Ethel Mays necessarily at all. But what does the Lutheran say? Does it even mention it? My problem with the blue Lutheran one is it has so much empty space. But does it say anything on this one? Regarding my punishment? Consequences, yes. So yeah, and you see that it's like, okay, so here's the consequences of there are consequences to sin. Let's see, I'm going to go down. So this is the NRSV, ESV, RSV, NIV. My punishment, my punishment, my punishment, my punishment. So all of them in this my little deal here. Let's see what the New King James. Oh, how come? Oh, it's because I got to go over more. Okay, New King James. My punishment, they're all saying punishment. I don't like punishment. All church transit. Oh, right. And I didn't. Oh, I still didn't bring that. It's down in the room 4, I think, store, or maybe it's in my office. But anyway, yeah, but it does change it, doesn't it? If it's guilt, it could be guilt. Oh, Kim. That would be cool to find out what that translation says. Because if it's guilt, then Ross, then he is repenting. My guilt. Oh, my conscience is crushed. I can't bear it. But I think you're probably right. It's probably that, what you're telling me is going to happen now, I can't bear. We'll see when Kim gets back to that translation. But yeah. Yeah. The life is in the blood. Yeah. Yeah, he took the life of Abel, and the life is in the blood. That's right. And so when we think about offering and sacrifices, that the life of the bull or the ram or the goat or gave life to those for whom it was being sacrificed. And that's the way, when we think about atonement of Christ, we could think about that. Well, let's see what God says to this perhaps repentant Cain, or perhaps just still looking out for his own skin Cain. We don't know. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. And you could say, well, see, he wouldn't, but now he's God's face is going to be hidden from him. I mean, that's I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. So that goes back to Ross's. The first part I'm going like, yeah, he's sorry for his sin, he's repentant. And then at the end, it's like, well, and I'm going to be done in. So, he could just be worrying about his own skin. Then the Lord said to him, and this is interesting, because if God, of course, knows his heart, just knew that he was just, I just don't want to go. This is too hard. I don't want to die. Then maybe God would have just said, well, tough luck, dude. No, he goes on. Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. So he sets up a protection. No, you don't get to scapegoat Cain. You don't get to take matters into your own hand. Yeah, I want him to have the death sentence or penalty or whatever. No, you're going to protect Cain. He's going to protect Cain. I'm going to put, and yes, you're going to have to deal with your consequences. You're going to have to live a miserable life. I love that. Yes. And then we think about this. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. I believe so. Eden, yeah. East of Eden, and that could be. So I'd like to just, while Kim, it didn't say, it just said punishment and didn't even write about it. Oh, that's interesting. I want to just clear something up, because there is some racist stuff that crops up here. In the sad history of racism in our country with slavery, what do you think the slave owners thought the mark was? Black skin. And then you can justify doing what you're doing. You don't kill them, but you can enslave them. Well, obviously that's a bunch of hooey. We don't know what the mark is. Yeah, right. And actually, even though it's funny, it's kind of like that I believe the Hebrew word is more like a mark. It's not like he didn't change his skin color or something like that. It was for him. I think we just have to do away with that. I probably shouldn't even have mentioned it, but we need to mention it because of the history. Yeah. Well, and I would say it's a different mark, but it's a different mark, but the same concept. We now have a mark of protection upon us. I love that. That's good. It's a better mark, just like the blood of Christ is better. It's not the same, but it is a mark that says something, Yeah, interesting. A seal, I think we're sealed. Yeah, so there is a seal, that we're sealed by and we say that in baptism. You've been marked with the cross of Christ. So there you go. And sealed by the Holy Spirit forever. Yes, Bruce.
What do you think that the Moses he had to cover?
All right, this is good. Yes, Bruce, I think that is here. So now, if this, again, why is this story told? Is it told to answer all of our questions? Probably not. It's told to say, why are things the way they are? Why are human beings violent? Why are human beings jealous? Why are they prideful? Why do they want to run from God? What are the consequences of that? Look around. And yes, why is God hidden? Because let's be honest, now that we have Christ, yes, God has been revealed to us, but that's God just to the average person. What does Paul say to the people in Athens? You have so many gods, and then they have that one unknown God, and he says, now you don't have to grope around anymore. Because without Christ, that's what we're doing. Because God's face is hidden. You know, and what I hear people say today, well, if God would prove himself to me, I'd believe. Like, isn't that the whole, you know? Yeah, please.
It's faith.
That wouldn't be faith. Exactly. Right? Yes. Because faith is trusting a word, you know. Soren Kierkegaard, I remember not very much of reading him, but from my philosophy times in college, but I remember him saying, talking about people wanted to go back. Oh, I wish I could go back, and if I could see Jesus doing that miracle, I would really believe that. And if I could, you know, and he said there were all kinds of people who saw it and didn't believe. How do you know you would believe? You know, it's a great point. So yeah, that's right. So, okay, good stuff. So is this, you know, when we said that God clothed Adam and Eve, that was grace, you know, again, somebody I don't think bought that completely, but anyway, poor choices like anyway, but isn't this grace? Would you buy that? Isn't this grace that that God doesn't kill him and puts a seal and protects him? You know, I think you could make the case that this is a response of grace, you know. You can, you know, decide if you buy that or not. But yeah, so I want to keep going with what Bruce started us on. What does this say about anthropology? What is the status of being human when it comes to God? And I think this says volumes. I think that we cannot see the face of God. One, it would wipe us out. It'd be too terrifying because of our sin. That's really there in the Bible for sure. God is righteous, we're not. Problem, that's the whole purpose of the tabernacle. When the people are freed from Egypt, is God's going to be with them, but they've got to have some separation and barrier, because if they got too close, they'd burn up, they'd be dead, you know. So that's there. But I think even more so, also, especially for people today, they struggle to believe on their own. And then they give up. That's the state of humanity, because they don't realize I can't believe. This is what Luther says, right? In the third article of the explanation of the Apostle Creed in the Small Catechism, I believe that I cannot by my own reason or understanding come to believe. Of course, Jim Nestian, who passed away just recently, summed up that by saying, I believe I cannot believe. That's what we're saying in the third article of the Creed. I believe I cannot believe without the Holy Spirit working through word and sacrament. So out there in the world, and bless our own kids, and I don't know, somehow I'm not getting this word across. They go off into the world and they think, and they go to college. Most of our young people in this particular socioeconomic situation of this congregation go off to college, and they get all kinds of tough questions thrown at them. And I think they're good. I had that done. All this stuff about thinking critically and philosophy and psychology and anthropology and, you know, biology and this and that and astronomy and, you know, hopefully not astrology. But anyway, you know, you get all of these, you get Buddhism now, you get Hinduism, you get Sikhism, you get Islam, you get all these ways of thinking, you get all of this thrown at you. And our kids are out there and they stop believing. They're in the land of nod a little bit because they are trying to do it on their own. They haven't. Yes, sure. And that's a part of, you know, being a young adult. Like, I'm out there. I want to do it. I want to do it my own way. I want to get out there and see what I think and, you know, get out from under I remember Katie saying one day coming back from Cal Lutheran, you know, Dad, I'm trying to now make sense of it for me. And I said, that's good. That's great, but I want to help you. And it's not me that's helping you, it's Jesus. And this is the one thing I can't get into people's heads. You cannot believe without the Holy Spirit, and you cannot believe without Jesus. You need to keep hearing his word, or you will not believe. So when people get upset that I get upset that they're not in church, it isn't because you're not crossing off the checkbox. It's because your faith is in danger. I'm not saying you're going to lose your faith, but man, if you're not hearing the word and receiving the sacrament, I just, I worry. Now, fortunately, God is going to be faithful and keep his hand on them and me for no matter what, whether we're in the church or out of the church. God is going to keep, his hand is not pulled away. But man, we want to be a target, and we need that word. And so anthropology from Genesis is now we need help. Now we are stuck. We can't, Luther would even go on to say, we can't even choose God. We're going to choose the wrong. And I think if you read Genesis from here, that's going to ring true. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the saddest verses in the whole Bible where he's off into the land of Nod. Yeah, we wander. Right. Yeah. Yep. And then here's the cherry on the top. People think, well, I better get my act together before I come back to church. Right? Isn't that what you hear? If I come back, though, the ceiling is going to fall down. No, it's going to explode in the heavens rejoicing. That's what it's going to do. But that's what we think, because we think we've got to do something, So, all right. Oh, I like that one. I'm going to buy those pants because I know I'm going to be a couple sizes, and I'm going to really get myself together. All right. Oh, you guys are so great. This is so fun. You see why you want to study Genesis. It just gets you thinking and wondering. And all right, let's close in prayer. Thank you, God, for this great study today. And we pray in thanks that Jesus's blood speaks a much more powerful word. And we give thanks that your Holy Spirit has come into our lives through the word and sacraments. And we just pray that it'll keep coming, that we can keep believing. And so be with us until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. Please. Yes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I like it. Thank you, Audrey. That's great. Very helpful. All right. Let me stop the share. And everybody, God's peace, Evie. Take care, Ace. Take care, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.